home. I'm Jerrel. I'll be sharing my review of the Eastman MDA315 Mandola. Just going to double check my specs here. And right off the bat, I think this is it's a wonderful, fantastic instrument. It's so beautiful. It's really wonderful. You heard a bit of a buzz there at the end. I think the bridge height was adjusted about 2 months ago, but the weather, the season's changed here, and so it buzzed a little bit just there. And of course, they're adjustable, so those are the things that you take into account. So this could easily just be adjusted. I would loosen up the strings and then raise this end a little bit as it buzzed a little bit there. Of course, not a big deal at all. That's why we have adjustable tailpieces. So this is a solid spruce carved top. Actually, I don't 100% know if it's carved. The website says a solid top, so I don't personally know if it's pressed or carved, but it certainly sounds deep and warm and fantastic. So it is a spruce top, maple sides and back. That is a maple neck, ebony fingerboard, ebony tailpiece, and a pressed ebony bridge and a pressed brass tailpiece. So you can see the style of that tailpiece there. You have these tiny little hooks here, so these are much more solid than those sort of punched out lower quality tailpieces. So it's real easy to get those on there, as you have pretty good access, but you do have to feed the string through. I personally have had issues in the past where I feed the string through and then I miss the loop, and then the string goes through, and then I have to try and feed it through again. So there's just like a minor inconvenience. It's something you get used to as you use a tailpiece like this. So this is around $1,000 US, and in your country the price may vary here. This appears to have this lovely carved ebony plate covering the truss rod. And I think it looks really fantastic. It's much nicer look than a plastic plate. You have geared tuners here. I'll just double check and see if it specifies, because I had a look and I didn't see the gear ratio. The website just specifies quality geared tuners. I like to see what the gear ratio is on any of my instruments, just to know, if it's something like 14, and if it's a higher gear ratio, you'll have much more fine control. But it's not really a big deal. It doesn't specify that. So the build quality on this, as you would expect from Eastman, is just fantastic. You're not really going to see manufacturing flaws, as the quality control on Eastman instruments is quite high. There's this lovely, it's quite a modern look, really, to this sort of scroll design here. It's quite nice. There are no manufacturing flaws or anything. Really lovely to look at. It's tapered back a bit. Has a lovely modern look to it. You have your carved scroll here, which just looks quite nice. It's a nice flourish here that catches the light in just a nice way. Again, lovely maple back and sides. Wonderful, fantastic timbre to this instrument, and it really adds so much to the mix if you are in a group, and it's just really wonderful. When you get an Eastman instrument, there shouldn't be any setup that you need to do on your own. The bridge is set up so nicely. It sits so flush there with a very minor gap. You can see a little bit of light coming through the middle by design. That's to take into account the swelling and contracting for the change in the seasons as the humidity and the temperature in the air change, and it's important especially for solid tops. So this is really wonderful. It's so smooth to play. It feels like a higher profile, I suppose a C shape on that neck there. So there's it's quite comfortable. It sits in the hand really well. I would say that sort of shape is quite appropriate if you're going to be doing a lot of melodic lines or counter melody and whatnot. And then for chords, I do have to back up a bit, on that. But there's so much to support you there in terms of your grip. Very comfortable to hold that. Now it says spruce top. I don't necessarily hear the sparkle of the spruce in there, but these strings are quite old. They haven't been replaced in a while, so I suspect if the strings are to be replaced, you get a bit more of that sparkle back. But what it does have, even with these quite old strings, is this wonderful, complex warmth and depth to the instrument. It's something that you're not really, if you were to say, for example, put a capo on an octave mandolin, you're not going to get the same balance between the brightness and the sparkles and the complexity of the warmth and the depth. At this scale length, it's perfectly suited towards its range that it's playing in, whereas octave mandolins are really well suited and designed to play a lower register, so they won't be able to capture the depth in this range the way that the mandola does. It's a really fantastic instrument. Something that really stands out is that this tends to hold its tuning quite well. It generally, when they go a bit flat, as the season changes, the strings tend to stay pretty close together, which is a pretty good sign. It means that the setup on these instruments is good. There doesn't seem to be significant string binding up at the nut, nor would there be significant string binding down at the bottom. So as you tune, you can really hear and you can see the strings. If you have a tuner with you, you can actually see that your adjustments do have an immediate effect on the strings, and they generally won't go out of tune so much as you're playing it. When your instrument goes out of tune while you're playing it, it means that there's binding either at the nut or at the bridge, and there's inconsistent tension on either side of that. This instrument tends to stay in tune as you play it. Again, you would expect that sort of quality and reliability from Eastman. If you were a performer, if you were with a group and you could not tolerate instruments going out of tune in the middle of a set or performance, you can rely on an Eastman instrument like this to really do the job, and it's satisfying to play. It just has such a fantastic sound to it. Now, I would double check their website. I believe they do have an option that has a pickup built in. So this particular one does not have a pickup built in. Oh, I have to pause it here. Now, Eastman's website indicates that the binding material is referred to as Ivoroid. I don't know what that is, but I'll try to bring this closer to the camera. And there's this very nice layered effect to the binding. It's quite nice. It has just a real interesting look to it, and it's certainly more interesting than just sort of a plain ABS binding that you would generally see. There's a nice flourish here. Just there, as you can see, sort of white line in the material there. It looks quite nice. It gives it a beautiful sort of a look of continuity through the instrument as that lines up with that fret just there, and it sort of has visual coherence as that the binding sort of goes through there. It's just really lovely visual flourishes. It's such a beautiful instrument to look at. I really like this satin finish on there. It's really fantastic. What a lovely instrument. So who would I recommend this instrument to? Well, if you are just sitting at home and playing instruments just to yourself, you might not get that much out of a mandola. A mandola is a very specific instrument with a very specific purpose, and that is to add more textural complexity to an ensemble. If you have other people, other musicians that you play with, whether they're playing other mandolins, whether they're playing, your guitars and what have you, this is something that does add interesting depth to the mix, to the overall texture of the piece that you're playing. If you sort of like to, maybe you like to record a little bit of stuff on your own, you have a little bit of a home studio, you like to record some things. If you've got, a YouTube channel and you like to put up songs, you like to, dub over some of your tracks, and you already play mandolin, then absolutely, then I would recommend a mandola like this for you. This is a very good quality instrument. If you're a student and you're not sure if you'll be interested in the mandola, I might recommend looking for one at a lower price range, because there's a chance that you might find out that you don't really need a mandola, and you might not even really like the sound of it, because it's quite deeper. It has a deep complexity to it that the mandolin does not have. But Whether or not you need that is one thing. Not everyone needs a mandola. So if you find that you play music quite often, you play with other people, and you have a mandolin, and you find that you're feeling a bit too strident with your sound, it's just a bit too high and punchy, and you're looking for a bit more warmth and depth in the sound, then I would recommend trying a mandola. Go to your music shop, try these. But at this particular price range, I would absolutely recommend it. This is a beautiful instrument that you could play for years and years. It's really fantastic, and I will be creating some videos as well where I compare all of the different instruments in the mandolin family. I've got everything here except a mando bass. So I have a mandolin. This is just, I'm going to do a video that compares it to a low quality mandola. This is a very cheap, really awful factory made mandola out of China. It's awful. I'll be sharing a video that compares a very good mandola versus the worst mandola. I do have a beautiful Suzuki Mando cello there, and I have a custom modified built piccolo mandolin. So please look forward to that. I'll be creating videos to share those details. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to comment, and I'll answer your questions as best I can. Okay, so take care of yourselves, and come home again soon. We'll see you around.